All right, welcome everybody to another episode of The Doghouse Sports, a fan's best friend.
For all things sports.
Yes, sir. So, welcome back. We're doing another NFL segment. Today, we're going to be talking about the draft.
Oh, it's draft season, baby. Our favorite time of the year besides football.
Draft season is actually my favorite time of the year and has been for several years. For a long time, I considered myself like more of like almost like a football behind the scenes fan than the actual games. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy games. Who doesn't? But I love the intricacies and the thought that goes into building a team. And so that's where the draft that's the foundation is the draft. So like for quite a while now, I've been doing a lot of mock drafts and really and I think my best success was a couple years ago. I think I predicted like what was it, the first like 6 to 8 picks?
It was the first 7 picks. I was at your house and
yeah.
I remember they rattled them off. That was wild.
Yeah, I was so hyped. I mean, like, because that's rare to get that many right in a row. So I was so hyped about that. But I mean, honestly, most of the time I'm pretty off, as with a lot of mock drafters are. But it's still fun, and
A
it's still
blast.
thought provoking. So that's what we're doing today. So we each did a mock draft for you. So we're each gonna kind of like walk through and say who we think each team is gonna take or should take. And so yeah, so without further ado, we'll kick us off. So I mean, the first one's probably a little boring. I think we both are on the
Well,
same
actually,
page.
Beach, if you don't mind, because I
Oh,
have a
I'm
feeling
so
where you're
sorry.
going
Yeah,
with this. No, I have a feeling where you're going with that first pick, though. So if you don't mind, I took the liberty of
yes,
taking a
please.
little bit of a deep dive into some quarterback stats. Now, disclaimer here: this is from the 24 season, but I was at the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. I got access to some of PFF's, like I think it's their premium subscription data, whatever. Got a free trial, so I was taking a look because it's some interesting stuff there. And what I did was I took a look at some of the stats that I thought were most interesting for the quarterback class in the last season. I know there's some strong opinions about quarterbacks and how they're being ranked and where they're going. So what we're going to do is I just pulled my top 4 here. I'm going to speak what the stat is, explain it a little bit to you, and then I want you to tell me which of the top 6 quarterbacks. So we're talking Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Hicks, or Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. And you tell me when I tell you the stat who the top of the pack is, okay?
Yeah.
So the first one here is over the middle heat map stats, which essentially is looking at where the quarterbacks are throwing the ball in the middle and the velocity of the ball when the receiver caught it. Okay. Which of those quarterbacks do you think had the highest completion percentage and velocity on the ball over the middle?
That's a good question. I'm gonna go Drake May.
Drake May, great start there. That is the guy. I think this stat was interesting to me. I think it speaks about the confidence of the quarterback he got back there, especially firing across the middle of the field. What I will say is number 2 in this category was J.J. McCarthy, which was interesting to me.
That's
But
surprising.
Drake May was number 1. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so the next one is passing grade in pass-only situations. So this is like, I think, 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7 and up, essentially. What is their passing grade in those situations throughout the season? Who do you think number 1 is?
I'm gonna go Bo Nix.
Okay. Bo Nix was 2.
Okay.
J.J. McCarthy was number 1. So
Right.
I found this stat interesting, right? Because this is really where I think that you're going to get the toughest coverages out of your college defenses. I think this is best simulating what we're going to see in the NFL. So 3rd and long, not any option but a pass. J.J. McCarthy was 1 overall in that category.
Cool.
Our next one, number 3 here, is average depth of target in 3rd down situations. So we're sticking with 3rd down. Again, likely these are 3rd and long, but it doesn't have to be. This can be any 3rd down. How far are the passes thrown on average? Okay. Who do you think number 1 is in this category?
Let's go Penix.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. I see why you said that. Caleb Williams is 1 in this category. Do you know who number 2 is?
JJ McCarthy.
It's J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. So in third down situations, average depth of target, we got our guy JJ there. And then finally, at two, I should say, finally, this is their passing grade on pressure plays. This one was a little confusing to me, to be fully honest. But essentially, plays where pressure is considered to be elevated for the quarterback, whether that's red zone, third downs, end of the game, end of quarter. So passing grade in pressure situations. Who's number one?
Let me go back to Drake May.
I like that pick because it makes a lot of sense with the middle heat map. JJ McCarthy is number one in that category.
I should have caught on. I thought maybe that's what the trend you're going with these stats, but yeah, wow, that's awesome.
So, I know that we could go and dig through stats and find stats that speak to the skill of any quarterback we want to. I mean, if we want to talk about how awesome Jayden Daniels is, we can look at all the rushing statistics at the quarterback position. So I'm not trying to say that this wasn't a little skewed, for sure. But I did think it's interesting because I think some of these stats speak to what we want our quarterbacks to do in the NFL. And JJ McCarthy is getting some love from people inside the NFL and then pretty much hate from everybody else. So I think that it's important as we, go through the process here to remind ourselves that there is something that these NFL teams are seeing that they like. But I'll stop there. We'll have more McCarthy and quarterback talk moving forward, I'm sure. But just wanted to share those with you.
No, that was great.
Cool.
All right,
All right.
so
So,
that brings us to the Bears. I
yes,
mean,
sir.
can we just say Caleb? Like I don't think we have to beat around the bush too much on this one. He's viewed as a generational talent. Whether his attitude's always right, that's to be determined. But you can't argue what he does on the field. And moving on from Justin Fields pretty much solidifies it.
Yeah, I have Williams at one there for the Bears. Again, we can talk about all the stats we want that make certain players look good, but at the end of the day, who looks the best when you're watching is Caleb Williams. So I agree. Yep.
So number two, this is where I think the draft community is kind of split. I think it's almost 50-50. I think that if I recall that we're on the same page with this one. We both think Jayden Daniels at number two.
Yeah, I also have him there for sure.
Yeah, I just think that what he was able to do in his final year at LSU was special. And you know, you hate to do it, but whenever you think of Drake May, you can't help but think a little bit of Mitch Trubisky and Sam Howell. Like they've had these very successful quarterbacks that have done nothing in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying I think May has better tape coming out than either of those guys did, but I mean that brings us to our third overall pick. Um, right now it's your Patriots.
It is, yeah, and we'll see what happens there. There's definitely rumblings. Personal opinion aside, for this episode, I do have the Patriots sticking at 3 and taking Drake May. I think for me, and we'll see how much this was telling. The reason I went Daniels for Washington was because of the Mariota signing. I kind of feel like that's a something in the cards there to have a similar backup. Personally, I love May. If we're going to take one of the top 3, that would be my pick because Williams isn't realistic. So I like the pick for May, but what I'm concerned about is who's he going to throw to? So that's who
Well, yeah,
I have.
that's the other weird thing I felt like, not to get off too far off the draft, but like the Patriots, they have like 5 or 6 like number 3 receivers. Like I feel like Juju, Bourne, Douglas, Thornton, and then who they just signed,
Oh,
Osborne.
yes, thank you.
All are like would be good 3 receivers on a team. But
Yeah,
like the problem is you can't just have a wide receiver room of just number 3 receivers. So that'll be
yeah,
interesting. But
tough.
so my number 3, I actually did project a trade. So I typically don't prefer to protect trades in my mock drafts. It can get very messy. It's so unpredictable. There are going to be trades, but you never know what's going to happen. But I did let myself do it this time because with the Vikings trading for that 23rd overall pick from the Texans, it has all the makings of
Something
a setup trade.
Yeah.
And the rumor mill is either they're going to trade up with the Patriots or the Cardinals. in this scenario, I have them trading up with the Patriots. You know, the Patriots have so many needs, and maybe they don't like um who falls to them at 3, you know? So in this scenario, I have them trading back and the Vikings moving up, and I have the Vikings taking Drake May at 3. So we have the same
Yeah.
person, just different teams.
Yeah, I think that's the Vikings' ideal scenario is to get to 3 and get May. We'll see if they're able to. For pick number 4, though, to head to the Cardinals, I have them taking what I think, and there's going to be chat. There always is this chat, specifically with receivers, it seems, of who's the best pick here. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. going number 4 to the Cardinals, and I don't think it should be a hard pick.
Yeah, I agree. I think he has a pedigree. He has the skill. I have the same pick as well. But like, yeah, you're right. Like we see this sometimes where we think that there's one guy the entire draft process that we think's the best of the bunch, but then late in the process, the team falls in love with someone else. Like kind of, this takes me back to when the Texans drafted Stingley over Sauce
Yeah,
Gardner. You know,
yeah,
that shocked everyone. You know, everyone thought that if they would take a corner, they would take Sauce. Um, and I know that there are some serious love for both Neighbors and Adunze. That like I wouldn't agree with it, but it wouldn't shock me if one of those guys went over Harrison.
yeah.
Because that's just how things shake out. But you know, I agree with you, Marvin Harrison at number 4. And then moving to my team, the Chargers. I'm gonna keep it rolling with the receiver, because we let Williams and Allen walk. I have us taking Neighbors. You know, I think um, to me, drafting an LSU receiver is a good idea. I mean, LSU has been an absolute factory of wide receivers as of late, and so that's why I like him a little more than a Dunze. Um, and like I also like that they have to go against SEC competition, SEC secondaries, you know. Um, so that's why I'm taking Neighbors at 5.
Yeah, I get it. I think with Adunze and Neighbors, and I would say recently, last couple of weeks, Neighbors has risen a little bit more than Adunze. I think it's what you want, though, right? Do you want
Yeah.
that crazy speed that you're getting with Neighbors, or do you want some of the more physical style play that you're going to get from Adunze? So at 5, I also have your Chargers taking a receiver, but I do have them going Adunze there. I'll say when I made this pick, I thought maybe they'd keep Allen but let Williams go, and Adunze could just kind of fill that role maybe. Now I can see the Neighbors pick 2 for sure. So
I mean, I think either one would be fine. I could also see the Chargers shocking us and not taking receiver, just because of the style of football that Harbaugh is implementing. You know, this
like a
is
Joe Alt. Yeah.
yeah, like a Joe Alt or something like that. Like it really is a wild card because we have a brand new GM and coach, so we can't really use previous draft history to kind of help predict us. Um, so we'll see. But going on to number 6, I have the trio of receivers going back to back.
Yeah.
I have them getting much needed help for Daniel Jones, and I do have a Dunze going to the Giants at 6.
Yeah, and we're just switching picks here because then I have the Giants taking Neighbors. What a fun first 6 picks it would be. Quarterbacks for 3, receivers for 3. That'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of just speaks to kind of the strengths of this draft. You
For
know,
sure.
receiver is a strength, and so is quarterback. So at number 7, do we keep the similar trend going? I have Joe Alt at 7.
Yeah, yeah, we're the same there, same wavelength. I think we'll definitely start to see some differences as we get through this, but this draft has some incredible players at all of the cornerstone positions. So, like you were saying, I mean, it's Joe Alt makes a lot of sense for the Titans. Really, like completely, I think they would hope solidify that line.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, the line was a weak spot last year, and when you have a young quarterback like Levis, you need to have him a good line so he has a chance to even try to be good. And they were like, whether you agree with the Ridley amount of money or not, they were able to address receiver, and Hopkins and Ridley is not a bad duo at all.
yeah,
They got Pollard to Pollard will be a great like outlet guy. He can catch the ball really well in the backfield. So really, like the last thing they needed was to show up the line, and I think Joe Alt really helps them do that. So
yeah, we'll know. We'll know if Levis can play by the end of this season.
yeah. All right. 8, Atlanta. So I go back and forth here. Like am I um I thought about giving them receiver. You know, I know they signed Mooney and traded for Moore, but neither of those guys like give me a ton of confidence. So I could see the Atlanta Falcons like. Well, first of all, I think if one of those top three are here, Neighbors, Dunze, or
Yeah.
Harrison, if one of those somehow fall, you take them if you're the Falcons. You snatch those up. But with those three off the board, I haven't taken Dallas Turner. You know, they've been trying to get an elite edge rusher for years, and they've struck out more times than you can count. So I think they try to go, they take a top 10 pick, they take the guy from Alabama and Dallas Turner.
That's exactly what I have. Can they finally solve this edge puzzle? I don't know. Pick nine, I do think we'll see a difference here. I also have the Bears with that ninth pick going edge. I have them taking a guy that I love. Everything that I've read as far as character, athleticism, dedication goes, I have them taking Latu Latu. And I think that he's kind of like a Will Anderson like pick. That's what this feels like to me. Get your defensive leader in the building, groom him from young. You know, I think that they did a lot on offense, so I think I like the edge pick there with Latu.
You know, that what's funny enough, they kind of have a similar out like needs as the Falcons in a way. Like they added receiver. I mean, Allen is better than who the Falcons added, um, but you could see them um doubling up and getting another receiver potentially,
Yeah.
because they have some aging receivers. So if like one of those, once again, those top three guys are there, probably. I also have them taking edge
Okay.
because I think that is the right move here. But I haven't taken Jared Verse from Florida State.
I can see
Um,
that.
I I think that Latu's injury history might deter people from the top 10. And I have no doubt that Latu could be the better player, but I think that they're close enough that you do take into account the injury history, especially when it's as serious as a neck injury. And he was pretty much medically retired from um before he transferred to
Yes.
UCLA. So that deters me a bit from him going so early. But I agree with you that he might have actually more upside. But I'm going Jared Verse.
Do you think there's a chance, and not to take us off rails here, do you think that there's a chance the Bears win that division?
Not. It really falls on how good Williams is, right? If Williams is as good as everyone says in year one, yes, there is a chance. But like I said, I really like the Lions. I think they had a good free agency, so I still think the Lions are the favorite for sure.
Yeah, I hear that. All right, so on the pick 10, we got the Jets here. Now, I made this a little bit before some of the free agency moves started to roll in, so I do have them taking Talisi Fuaga, tackle. I don't think it's crazy. Tyron
Hmm.
Smith is not going to play a full season.
No,
I do
I
think they look at receiver here. Maybe Brian Thomas a little high for him, but maybe they really like him. But Fuaga, I think, could still happen.
no, I think you're 100% right. Like to me, it's probably either going to be receiver or O line, as you just mentioned. But like then again, they actually recently addressed both those positions with Mike Williams at receiver and then Moses and Smith at O line. But all those guys are over 30 and injury prone. So I think Fuaga is still a great pick. My only thing with like a Fuaga is I think he's more of like a right tackle, and so I'm not sure like if they to me um maybe Fashan if you're taking a tackle, maybe Fashano actually makes more sense because he's more of a true left tackle. Anyway, I actually have the Jets going with a guy that I'm much higher on than you is Brian Thomas.
Yeah,
Um, I think the trio of Wilson, Williams, and Thomas would be absolutely phenomenal.
it'd
And
be
Tom
crazy.
and Thomas has that inside outside versatility. He has that field stretching ability as well. Um, it might be a little high for him, but I think that like the drop from him to the fifth receiver is pretty steep. Um, and I think that he's probably worth like a mid like around 15. But the truth is, if you want someone at 15, you have to do him at 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I mean he has elite speed. He showed off the combine. I have Thomas at 10.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Like I said, I can see it happening, and I know that you're not the only one who's higher on Brian Thomas than I am, for
I mean,
sure.
once again, the LSU receivers, until they prove otherwise, they're just an absolute factory. So, all right, 11.
Yeah, 11. So I had the Vikings sticking at 11, like I said, a little bit pre-free or pre some of the moves here. So I have Jared Verse for them if they were to stick at 11 and pick for edge. I love this guy. I know we've talked about it a little bit. He reminds me, and I use this cautiously because I know it hasn't turned out like we thought it might. But oh, and why am I blanking here? Help me out, Beach. Out of South Carolina. What's
Yeah,
his
Jadeveon Clowney.
David Clowney, thank you. The tape on Verse, this guy, he's a monster. Like the way that he just rolls through offensive lines. So I love that pick. If they are to stay at 11, maybe it's McCarthy now instead without Cousins, but versus game record.
Yeah, I mean, like I think odds are they're going to trade up anyway. So this pick is probably a mute point until that trade happens anyway.
Yeah,
I do have them taking. Well, actually, I have in this scenario, as I mentioned, them trading with the Patriots. So I
right.
have the Patriots picking at 11 in this, and I have the Patriots going with JJ McCarthy, taking their quarterback of the future. The only thing that scares me a bit with McCarthy, he almost feels like a Mac Jones type of player to me.
Yeah,
And
I can see that.
I'm not trying to slight McCarthy by saying that. And I know we just at the top of the segment went through all those great stats that support him, but he's a guy that's coming from a winning organization, so he wasn't asked to always be that guy. They and kind of similar to Mac Jones came from Alabama. So that's the biggest scare for me. So I'm not as high on him as the league is, but I think for with where the league at, I think him going at 11 is. I mean, I think that 11 is probably his absolute floor. I think he's like probably going no later than
Yeah, I am probably going to continue talking myself into this because I can really see the scenario we're talking through being the reality. Um, My concern with McCarthy, like you said with Mac Jones, is we're bringing him in with less than Mac had, arguably.
11.
And I don't think he's a guy that's going to overcome that. I think he's a guy who can operate in a system
Yeah,
better than anybody in the league.
him on the
But
Niners, put him on the Niners.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I
Yeah.
see it.
Well, do you like as a Patriots fan though? Like, would you be happy or if they had McCarthy? If
I
so,
think
if this scenario happened, you trade back with the Vikings and you take McCarthy at 11, would you be happy?
if I'm the Patriots, if I'm Elliott Wolf, I understand why you want to go quarterback here. But I think if you trade back, you're admitting to the fact that you have more needs than just quarterback, and you have to prioritize best player available here at pick 11. Whether that's I don't know if Olu did he already go off your board? Is he still there?
No, he's still there.
Yeah, so like maybe you pick him, get your tackle spot squared away. Maybe you pick your best receiver available, who I don't know who that'd be for you right now because I know you have the top four gone. But like consider your options a little more carefully if you're gonna trade back and get more picks, would be my
No,
take.
I definitely agree with you, and I think that could be a possibility. But I think in this scenario, like he's there, you take him.
Yeah.
Denver. Oh wait, Denver is fuming right now if this happens because I think Denver
Yeah.
really wants McCarthy, but they don't have the capital to move up. Um, and so I have them going back to back quarterback here. I'm not personally super high on this guy. I think this is probably way too high for him. But we have seen quarterbacks taken earlier than they should. You
Yeah.
know, I have Bo Nix going to Denver here at 12. Um, it just depends if Sean Payton likes him or not. But I have that's where. What about you? Where you have Denver
Yeah,
going?
I have them going quarterback too. I think they will. And I think likely there's a chance they consider a move up if anyone wants to trade like up in 8 through 10 region. But I have them in my draft getting JJ McCarthy, which I think they would love
Yeah,
because again, the Vikings.
I think if McCarthy's still there, like at 9, you know, I could see the Bears like Ryan Poles has kind of been a wizard lately. I could see him maybe wanting to accumulate more draft picks, trade it back, or the
Yeah,
Jets. Like I definitely think if he gets to like 9 or 10, they'll probably try to leapfrog whoever ends up being at 11. Um,
agreed.
another team, so it's kind of weird. Like we have the first three picks in the draft probably going quarterback, and then we have this weird stretch 11, 10, 11, 12, 13 with the Patriots, Broncos, and Raiders, which I think could theoretically go three quarterbacks again. They all have a need.
Yeah,
In this scenario, though, I do not stick with the trend. I do not have the Raiders taking Penix. Is a possibility, but I've heard that Penix seems like more of a second round guy. That's what I've heard reports on. So, but I think the Raiders are another team that could try to leapfrog the Broncos. Anyway,
Yeah.
I have the Raiders sticking around, taking their BPA, best player available, at a position of need, and that is corner, and then taking Terry and Arnold. Now, I know that Arnold wasn't the best tester, but something I've come to learn with following the draft and the combine for a while now is you need to use the combine as more of like, instead of being blown away by the elite athletes, you have to use it more as, do they perform what they need to?
Yeah.
And Arnold performed well enough that it's not a concern. So you can get too caught up with like crazy athletes, but really didn't do as much on the field. Arnold was that guy on the field. Uh, was that elite playmaker at corner. So I have them going Arnold at to the Raiders.
Yeah, yeah. So I have the Raiders taking Fatanu here at 13 to grab a tackle. I thought they might make a move for Justin Fields or, I don't probably not Wilson wouldn't have made sense, but somebody in free agency besides Gardner Minshew. I will note I think it's significant that they signed Minshew to a 2-year deal, whereas you have the Vikings who signed what's his name? Darnold to a 1-year deal. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but they gave him some solid money, and I think they might view him as their like kind of bridge guy starting. So I wouldn't surprise me if they take a QB, but I have them going offensive line at 13.
Yeah. Well, so you think you're taking him over though, like of wait, who did you say you're taking?
Fatanu, Troy Fatanu, or am I saying his last name correctly? Sorry if I'm not.
Probably. I'm not sure, but like I'm surprised you're taking him over Fashanu.
So at 14, I have the Saints going Fashanu then, and I might if I redrafted with new information, maybe would switch that. But yeah, I have them. I have them pretty equal to each other.
I have the Saints taking Fashanu as well. I think their biggest need is left tackle. If he's there, that's you take him and don't look back. Um, so with us both agreeing, let's move on to 15. Indianapolis. Who do you got? The Colts taking.
So this is where I have Arnold coming off the board 2 picks later for the Colts. Because they didn't make any free agency moves besides like bringing back Pittman. I could see this going a couple different directions, but I do think Arnold is best player available here, so I have them going.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same position. I think corner is their obvious top need. But with Arnold off the board in mind, I have them going Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo. Now this this guy, I know I just mentioned about elite athletes, but he is one. Um, and I think that's a pretty good value with him being the second corner off the board.
Agreed. And then I have at 16, the Seahawks stay in defense. I have them taking Byron Murphy, which would be the first interior D lineman off the board. But I also think this guy's a game wrecker. But I like that. He feels like a Seattle guy to me. Not sure why. It just feels right.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. A couple years ago they took that guy from TCU, LJ Collier.
Yeah, yeah.
A little higher than a lot of people were taking. Similar vibes. I have them taking a guy that you already had off, Fatanu from Washington, Troy Fatanu.
Yeah.
Um, you know, um, Seattle, Washington connection. They keep the guy local. He plugs some much needed. He's what's cool about him. He's a multi position guy. He can probably play guard or tackle, so he
Yeah.
offers some position flexibility. I really like him at 16, and with that does bring us through halfway through the first round, and so I think I think I think we're at a good pause point. And if
Yeah.
if you want to hear if the watchers at home want to hear the second half, we're gonna definitely make another episode very soon. But yeah, that's our 1 through 16. And Stevie, like, what do you think? What do you think your favorite pick there is?
I love that question. To be honest with you, I really love the Latu pick for the Bears. It's one of those picks where, like, I don't know if you do this, but one of the things I love about draft season is creating the stories and like why the teams like them besides just them as like a player on the field. And I just love what I think he could add there. If I'm going with the pick that I think is the biggest game changer for the team besides Caleb Williams, I'd probably go with my neighbor's pick to the Giants to give Daniels like somebody elite. But what about you?
I think my favorite guy is Brian Thomas. You know, that creates an elite trio, one of the best trios in the league, possibly with Mike Williams, Thomas, and Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. Like, I mean, I think that move would just make that offense elite.
Yeah, I see that.
And would be really fun to watch in New York. So, that's my favorite pick from the first half. But thanks for tuning in from home, everyone. This has been another fun episode. Like I said, tune in for part 2. And this has been the Doghouse Sports, a fan's best friend for
all things sports.
Yes, sir.
See you next time.